Hi, everybody. Mondion Astral Oracles, thank you for being here with me, and I'm glad to be here with you. It seems like there's been quite a few new subscribers to the channel, so thank you for being here as well, and to all the people who've been here for a while. And well, those of you who've been here for a while, you know that apart from the channelings, then a part of the channel is that I kind of share also my own awakening journey and try to be forthcoming with that and what's going on with my whole relationship to the practice and in my kind of confusing but also somewhat interesting and exciting life. And well, as you may know, for the past 3 months, 2.5 months or so, I've been in Copenhagen, central Copenhagen, staying here in my father's apartment, which I was fortunately able to do. He doesn't live here, um, and sort of recuperating from I don't know, life in general, or just trying to put the pieces back together. And I've been going on about how busy I was. Like if people ask me something or me like I'm busy, which is kind of a dickish reply. I know in the long run, like it's the thing that you say when you just don't want to take the trouble and the time to address people properly. And at the same time, there's really been a lot of stuff going on. So as you know, partially I've had this job where I've been nursing a lady with a disease that gave her some spastic symptoms, and who was in a wheelchair, and kind of faced with all the lessons and the confrontation with the sort of very mundane physical reality with that, which is a strong contrast. And of course, I wouldn't necessarily uh, be the kind of person who was drawn to these high geometric realities of infinite order and light and beauty, if I didn't prefer that to um, the people with a chronic illness and being strung out on diazepam and watching a lot of TV with a dog with chronic diarrhea. Of course, like there's a huge there's sort of a huge contrast in that, which has been very interesting for me to try to divide or try to straddle and try to remain focused in. So that's been um, well, a helpful lesson for me, I feel, but also challenging. And then at the same time, what I did was I was in Portugal, Lisbon, as you know, 2.5 months ago for a week. And before that, I had spent some time in the countryside around my mother, which is simply just not good for my mental or my physical or any type of constitution. And so this kind of led to me just fleeing anywhere, Lisbon, it turned out, and then realizing that I was in no shape to sort of keep going. And then I returned to Copenhagen, and I pressed the button of the Danish welfare system, and went to the doctor. And so I've been examined up the wazoo these past months. So I'm apparently incredibly healthy, EKG and blood pressure. And then I had an MRI done in connection to like all these symptoms and clairvoyancy and stuff and energy stuff and chronic headaches that I'm still experiencing, but that seem to be getting better. And so I got the results last week, and it turns out I don't. There's nothing formally wrong with my head. So whatever this is lies within normal neurological activity. Which is to say it means I'm not crazy, though they would point out that perhaps they couldn't rule out that some of the psychedelics and amounts of cannabis I had smoked had something to do with what they would obviously construe as um, the psychotic realities, you know, talking to things that aren't there. And at the same time, I had the experience of being invited out to talk to a room full of psychiatrists who asked me like very kind, very interested questions about how I experienced this clairvoyant reality. So I also sensed there was some point in being brought there and kind of bringing forward this experience to these people. But of course, at the same time, it's also a system that for some reason is very, very keen to offer you drugs as soon as those drugs are pharmaceuticals of a fairly recent date that don't have a long history of human usage and that of course can also be commodified, sold for money, right? And that don't seem to do much else than to shut off people and those layers of reality which psychiatry and modern psychology doesn't really know what to do with at all. So those are some of the things I've been going through. So just, you know, seeing so many different doctors, counselors, consultants, people asking me like how are you doing, Matt? And then having to talk about myself, narrate myself, and which I find quite challenging because it's a, you know, you just pull a thread and then then it's like infinity, right? It's we are all connected to everything. And we all have this story about ourselves and a part of what goes on in this channeling process for me is that I depersonalize. I put away that story. I get to put away that story and not be me and just be engaged in this process, which I absolutely love, because it's actually kind of troublesome being a person. It's like a weighty process, and at some point I need to learn and deal with that myself, and at another point I've also realized that it's something that I need to create room for, and so what I really learned through this entire process, also of trying to explain um, like how I see reality and how uh, my life is and how I perceive it to people who are complete outsiders to this, but not unkind and who have the intention of trying to help me from the perspective that they're coming from. But what I've also learned is I feel is that I've actually become very defined about um, like who I am, what it is I want to do with this, and the fact that I'm incredibly interested in these depersonalized spaces. I like to go into places that deal with these higher realities and don't necessarily address all the psychological bullshit that all also makes up a personality on the individual level where and I don't know if this is a basic point, but but personality, individuality is limitation, right? It's the thing that makes you is the fact that it's all the things that you are not that you are, and that's of course why the idea, for instance, of the Messiah or the Bodhisattva uh, is a being that's somehow more than human because it's not limited to being a person, and that's also why I truly enjoy entering into these enlightened spaces, because this means I can put away my unenlightened reality. And I thought for a while this month I've just been thinking that okay, I've been preoccupied with all these things and appointments and stuff I needed to clear out, but then I found that it was actually like vibrationally, I felt this entire personality discourse was rubbing off on me. Um, like having to deal with people who were so limited in that perspective, and for instance, who were informed by watching a lot of television, and so in the job I've been doing, I've been watching a lot of television on the sideline, which has been very weird, because I of course all of a sudden realized that, okay, this is the way that it's Big Brother, right? Like it's the way that you're molded and massaged into being a part of the culture of, and thereby also made to be not a non-threatening element of it. And of course, I'm preaching to the choir here, but that's kind of a perspective that you become very removed from once you get into, exploring all these alternative sources of information, and strange, and let's say less normative perspectives on reality. And another thing I've been realizing also is that I've been really wanting to do some videos around these very interesting portal energies. The the twos, so the second this month, and the 22nd. But I've also found that I was completely floored by the energies myself, and there seems to be what I imagine you are experiencing right now around this, as well, is that there seems to be a lot of difficulties, troubles, crises that have manifested in the last years, actually, that seem to be wrapping up to a resolution point, meaning that they have become so condensed that they need to be addressed and pushed out. So you're no longer sort of in the crisis, but you are um, sort of emerging from the chrysalis. So using this image, if you feel like you've been trying to push open from the chrysalis for the past years, or perhaps even since 2012, then where you are now is sort of creeping out of it, and then it's like, the wings are still sticky, but they're starting to release and expand, and that's sort of the energy that's been opened up. And it's very interesting how this relates to crystals. um I like crystals. I've never really studied them in intensely, which is um often a problem, because it's something that people seek guidance about. But I am very much in tune with the immediate resonance of a given crystal. And so friend Laurie, who also sent me this beautiful shawl behind me, but also sent me some crystals all the way from America. And of course, this crystal is Moldavite, so, which I believe actually comes from the Czech Republic, right? But it's probably named from Moldavia, but actually comes from outer space. This incredibly rare and weird crystal. And when I received it, I felt it has the most freaky vibrations. It's like, it reminds me a little of the mantis, but sort of this very green, deep, multi-dimensional side dimension vibration. Like it's hard for me to describe, but there's so much like little green men energy in this, um with a very ferocious, powerful slant. Not just the leprechaunish image of them, but something that's very strong. And what I can tell is, it seems as if these past 2 days, where this portal has changed, that, well, it's become more stable, the energy field around it. It seems to have an easier time um, stabilizing itself in this space. And because I've actually been using this tourmaline, which she was also so kind to send me to block the frequencies around this tourmaline is a very very good frequency blocker if you need to protect your energy field or space. But now it seems it's lending some interesting type of energy, and it's almost nauseating. But I also sense it's because it has a kind of a purifying altercation to it, and I would actually love to. I think I'll do a separate video where I tap into the energy of this Moldavite, and that will be a part two. But this was just a long preliminary about where I'm where I've been and what's been going on with me. And and I'm very I feel very comforted to know that, well, partially that I don't have a tumor or anything causing all this pressure in my skull, that it is apparently these energy symptoms, because I'm otherwise healthy, and also partially it's actually I didn't really know that until I got the result, but I'm very relieved to know that this is something that doesn't necessarily manifest as what would be connected to abnormal neurological activity, because it also confirms my suspicion that, well, all this channeling information, it is etheric, right? It's being translated by the mind, but it's not being generated by the mind. And so this, I think, at least to me, was very comforting as I move forward in exploring and expanding on this discipline, to know that at least it's well, it might be nominally crazy, but at least it's not something that can be scientifically documented. So it's my word, it's my word against this, right? So with that point, I look forward to seeing you in a bit, channeling the energies within this Moldavite. Much love to you guys.